Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's podcast. My name is Alice, and I'm the product evangelist for SpeedLegal. Today, I'm here with the incredible Hans-Paul Pazzanini, the CEO of SpeedLegal. Thanks so much for taking the time, Hans-Paul.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. While SpeedLegal's had quite an incredible year so far, with one of its many accomplishments being its launch on Product Hunt. And for those not yet in the know, Product Hunt is this platform that allows users to share and discover new products, which might range from everything including mobile apps to more traditional tech products or services commonly found in the market. And more often than not, Product Hunt is really viewed as this launching platform for founders to generate buzz and about their new and exciting products. And so today, Hans Paul, I was really just hoping to talk about your and SpeedLegal's journey from SpeedLegal's initial conception to its eventual launch on Product Hunt. And so just to start us off, since we may have some new listeners with us on today's podcast, would you mind giving us a sense of SpeedLegal's origin story? How did you get to where you currently are now?
Great question. Thank you, Alice. So SpeedLegal was born from a struggle. I worked at Amazon as a financial analyst in the legal team, and my parents are tax and legal consultants. So I was spending long hours on contracts, both at big companies as well as in my family business. And not being a lawyer, I had to pull out data such as payment terms, renewals, notice periods, and all the allowances and very financial data on contracts. But as you know, financial data is connected to the rest of the agreement. So I had to read through other parts that are very, very dense in terms of legal wording and text. So I thought that there was a better way, and there must have been a better way. So I didn't find that way, and I decided to create that.
I think that's incredible, Hans Paul. I think from something you'd already noticed even then that there was this niche that needed to be filled. And it seems like Speed Legal really has, provided the type of technology that allows, even lawyers as well as non-lawyers, to be able to
Correct.
digest contracts, or, what have you a lot more efficiently. So thank you so much for that, Hans Paul. Next, just kind of curious, just to turn to the discussion about Product Hunt. Can you tell me a little bit more about what motivated you to launch Speed Legal and your product on Product Hunt?
Yeah, this is a good question. So Product Hunt, you have already described exactly what it is. It's a community of makers and sometimes are, developers. We are all geeks. So trying to create something new and something that improves our lives and other people's lives. So Product Hunt is just, for someone, I mean, for some of us, it's really a place to celebrate your baby, your newborn, your company, your idea, your startup, your back of napkin idea. And yeah, so I think it's just a community where there are people who are very much engaged, and you can get good feedback as well, painful feedback, which is good feedback as well. And
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes it can be painful, but yeah, I think it's a great place to get feedback and be exposed
Mhm.
to real people.
Absolutely. No, I think I love that. I love that description. It's a sort of a community of geeks with their babies in tow. I think very sort of visually stunning description. I love that. Next, can you tell me a little bit more about your preparation process, leading up to the product hunt launch? Like what was going through your mind, as you prepared for this sort of very monumental step in Speed Legal's journey?
So this is my first launch as a company, as a person. So I actually read some different blog posts, and I asked two friends who launched in the past. And being in San Francisco, I was fortunate enough to go to an event where the CEO of Product Hunt was actually interviewing some of the successful launches, the makers and the product hunt launchers, makers. So yeah, I just try to expose myself to as many successful examples, and then of course there is a part of luck in all what we do in life. I mean, timing is part of it, and it's not always easy to plan it, but we chose, I think it was a Wednesday, which apparently is one of the most competitive days, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but also the one that if you do well, you may get the best results in terms of upvotes, in terms of impressions and people actually voting or commenting. So preparation is key, and we created a checklist on a Google document, shared with my team, and I made sure that the preparation was we started maybe a bit late, just a month before. Some people prepare like 3 months or two or more.
Mhm.
But yeah, it seemed to have kind of worked for us this time.
Absolutely. No, I think that's incredible to hear. I'm going to take a quick, quick tangent in terms of my questioning. You did mention that, how you really met a lot of these other founders as well as the people involved in Product Hunt in San Francisco. And I know, Hans Paul, you've recently sort of relocated to San Francisco, which is a very exciting journey. How's your time been, so far? Now you're really in the midst of startup culture, of Silicon Valley, ingenuity and entrepreneurship. How's life in San Francisco been treating you?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I was here before pandemic,
Mhm.
and that was very, very vibrant as a, as an ecosystem. Pandemic, allowed people to move somewhere else and work from other places. And therefore, but I think with this new technological wave, which is the
Mhm.
AI wave, which is coming back, of course, has been around for a long time, AI, but this particular LLM and computational power has improved and everything, making possible this technological change.
Mhm.
We see more vibrant community. So people are getting back to the city, and there are more events, and
Mhm.
I mean, it's great to be here and just go on a coffee shop and be able to talk about the new LLM being
Right.
released, or you know, just going for more than half of the events are about AI now. So
Right.
um, can be overwhelming sometimes because maybe you want to talk about something else. But if you are building the space, it's actually very, very good.
Right, absolutely. I think it's really great to hear that you've really sort of doubled down on the network and the connections you can find in San Francisco. And, I think that what you sort of described is really what I miss the most about the Bay Area, about Silicon Valley. You can go into a coffee shop and you'll just like maybe, more often than not, you'll hear somebody like, let's say, pitching their startup idea to a potential investor. And you'll hear people having these very vibrant discussions about, the forefront of tech and AI. You don't get that in other parts of the country. So I think you're definitely a little bit jealous that you are currently San Francisco based.
And we miss you back in Alice once you.
Absolutely. No,
you
I will see you soon. I will make my way to San Francisco and we got to grab that lunch. We got to grab that coffee. But just to sort of take us back, to Product Hunt, I think it was really great to hear about, your preparation process, really the amount of work that came from you and your team to make sure that everything was a success. I'm just kind of curious if you could talk a little bit more about that. There's so many other products on Product Hunt that relate to legal tech, some of which relate to AI more generally. Can you tell me about some of the strategies that you use to really help Speed Legal stand out amongst the other products on Product Hunt?
Yeah, so again, preparation is key. So
Mhm.
make sure that you have a checklist. I think it is a community, as we mentioned from the beginning. So be prepared to engage with your friends, community, followers, raving fans, early adopters, and ask them to be ready to support you on that day.
Mhm.
Um, so for sure, preparation is key. We can go double click on the steps if we want about
Mhm.
partnerships and maybe making sure that you have enough voice out there once you launch. Um, but in terms of other products and other verticals, that day we were competing with another couple of companies, and the one who got the number one,
Mhm.
which is a YC company, and one of the launchers is a famous partner at Y Combinator, so he had millions of followers. So we are
Mhm.
happy to be second to them because
Right.
and they have like tens of millions of funding, which is of course a good resource to use once
Mhm.
you launch. But yeah, so super happy to be second, and they were in a different segment, so was DevOps, if I remember correctly, or something, tech to tech,
Mhm.
basically, technology to technology. And so yeah, there are different type of startups. Some of them were more in the design industry, AI for design. Some of
Mhm.
them were into the music AI. So
Mhm.
there is a very good breadth of verticals. And to be transparent, I didn't see any legal tech company launching
Mhm.
at least that week or this
Mhm.
couple of weeks that I've been monitoring on Hunt. But there
Mhm.
are for sure other legal tech companies out there who have launched. I don't recall the name now, but I'm happy to
Mhm.
double click on that later.
Mhm. Maybe the other legal tech companies saw like, ooh, Hans Paul is coming in with Speed Legal. We got to move out of the way. But
No, I mean, I'm not sure about that, but anyways, I think there are many good companies out there, and it's just a good way to start. I think also, product hunt may not be a fit for everyone.
right.
Sometimes, maybe when you have an established product with an established customer base,
Mhm.
you may not need to launch on product hunt. And
Absolutely.
Speed Legal has just launched a new product. That's why we
Mhm.
launched on Speed Legal.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes complete sense. Just to sort of follow up on this line of thought, it seems like with this product launch, there's so many moving parts in the air. Did you encounter any unexpected challenges or even just opportunities during your product launch? If you wouldn't mind sharing some of that.
Well, um, I mean, a funny one is don't run out of coffee because you need a lot of energy throughout the day. I'm
Mhm.
kidding. I personally don't drink coffee, but I'm saying it's a marathon that lasts 24 hours. Well, it
Mhm.
lasts more, as we said, months before to prepare for
Mhm.
that. But in those 24 hours, basically, that's the time to vote to become the product of the day.
Mhm.
I mean, there are other prizes that are interesting, such as the product of the week
Mhm.
and the product of the month. But usually, in order to be product of the week or the month, you need to be very high up on the product of the day chart.
Mhm.
So basically, it starts at midnight Pacific time, which means late here, but early somewhere else in the world.
Mhm.
So if you have team members or friends around the globe who can
Mhm.
help you and turn and change shift between each
Mhm.
other, you can sleep a bit. Otherwise, be prepared to stay up a long hour. So for sure, one of the challenges was to make sure that we were covering the 24 hours.
Mhm.
And sleep deprivation was for sure one of the challenges, but
Right.
you do it for a purpose. And
Absolutely.
opportunities wise, I think, as we said before, opportunities to get great feedback from uh, a variety of people from
Mhm.
different backgrounds, mostly are technological people, so tech savvy,
Mhm.
and yeah, being able to get those feedback is great.
Absolutely. No, I think the time zone difference actually never crossed my mind. So I can't imagine how difficult of a situation that was trying to, that would have been sort of managing teams across different time zones while also making sure that you get enough rest. After all of this, I do hope you got at least a, restful 8 to 9 hours of sleep. But
Yeah.
you didn't mention feedback, so I'd really love to follow up on that. Just from the feedback and the engagement you got from the product hunt community, how did you end up using it to improve your product?
Yeah, good question, Alice. So we usually follow Scrum sprints, and we collect feedback. We put it on the backlog, and then we prioritize them based on the user stories, meaning how is it relevant for the current customer base we have, and in terms of how fast we can get that delivered. But yeah, basically we just collect the feedback, put it in our Jira boards, pull sheets, and make sure that it's prioritized on the product roadmap.
Mhm.
Some of them are, multi-language support, more contract
Mm,
types, more jurisdictions, rather than, common questions are, do you actually, check the regulations or how does the
mm,
system work? And for those who don't know, SpeedLegal right now is currently analyzing executed contracts signed in the past years, and we create a benchmark. We call it market standard, and we use that as a comparison to the newly uploaded contracts. But
mhm,
we have in the product roadmap an idea, an MVP to also connect data to litigation, such as
mhm.
case law in the US, civil code in some European countries, but it's not live yet. So these are questions that we have been asked also during this product hunt launch.
Absolutely. Sort of, going back to your comment before, just about the sort of product hunt community, right? Like it is a bunch of geeks, with their babies, with their tech babies in tow. Can you talk a little bit more about the role of community engagement, in your view, in the success of your product hunt launch?
Yeah, so that's key. It's a very good point to mention that because community engagement is something that you don't want to do just for product hunt
Mhm.
launch, but you want to ideally build for having someone to talk to and to get feedback on your product on a daily basis. Some people these days use Slack, Discord groups and channels to gather their friends and early adopters, and I think it's very important. Some people actually, some founders, very successful founders, create a community, a village before launching their product, which is key, because then it's you already have an idea of what people want. You have sounding boards when you launch and get feedback. So I think this is key, and product community engagement is great. And there are different ways of doing that. You can do it through outreach, finding people on LinkedIn or on other websites where you need to find a specific persona and then set a conversation with them, maybe a call or maybe a gathering, physical place. But yeah, there are many ways of doing that.
Absolutely. So I think, you mentioned some of this already, for instance, when you talked about the sort of translation component of the Speed Legal product, but can you share a little bit more about the other insights that you've
Mhm.
gained as a result of the product launch, whether that is on user acquisition or engagement or just anything along those lines?
Yeah, so about the insights on Speed Legal, right? You're asking about the how we acquire customers and how we plan to improve the
Yeah.
funnel.
Yeah, I think if there's just any insights from having launched a product on SpeedLegal that you think bears onto your future planning, let's say for user acquisition or user engagement, any lessons you've learned from the SpeedLegal launch in those domains?
On Product Hunt or generally speaking?
Oh, I'm both. I think both would be fantastic if you don't mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so well, from the Product Hunt launch, we learned a couple of things in terms of conversion,
Mhm,
what to expect once we launch again on Product Hunt, how much impressions we can get from a campaign, and yeah, to be transparent, we expected more. Actually, in terms of click-through rate and impressions, we got very decent numbers. In our case, it was on close to 8,000, but that
mhm.
was actually not just coming from Product Hunt, it's probably coming from a couple of newsletters who mentioned us. So on that, I may need to double check the numbers, but so that's a very interesting spike we got.
Mhm,
And then conversion was a bit lower, and in terms of signups,
mhm,
uh, the way we try to use this is to again gather feedback and use it to improve the product, and use it also as increase our user base, especially
mhm,
the early adopters that are on Product Hunt. Yeah.
mhm. Absolutely. No, I think again that's all incredible, Hans Paul. I'm so glad to hear about how far Speed Legal really has sort of progressed in the last couple of years since its inception. So now I'm sure, there are listeners here who are themselves founders and makers who are thinking like, wow, Hans Paul is doing something amazing. I'd love to be able to sort of follow in his footsteps. Now I'd really like to turn to a conversation about, what kind of advice might you give to other folks who were in your shoes, right? So just, to start us off, looking back, what would you consider to be some of the most significant lessons that you've learned from your experience launching on Product Hunt?
Well, specifically on Product Hunt,
Mhm,
um, well, first of all, there are many entrepreneurs who are, doing great work and great job in building new things with AI, and we're just one startup of the many. But of course, we are actually riding the wave of AI LLMs, and especially in the legal space. When
mhm,
we started, it was very not popular in 2020, a bit earlier actually. We started before Speed Legal. Um, but now it's becoming more understood, and people are actually
mhm,
ready to use this new technological advance in their workflow. And they're actually
mhm,
coming to us and ask, how can I do it with AI? So
mhm,
this is great. So the market is ready. And therefore, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you foresee the future, but you need to also foresee it, in a time frame where you can actually survive as a company. Because sometimes you do it when there's no market, and
mhm,
you're building a product that has no market. So if you
mhm,
do it a bit before everybody's gonna jump on the band, on the car, on the bus, you're ahead probably as a first mover. But if you do it too early, you may die because you run out
mhm,
of money, right, and funding. So that's a key learning, I think. Sometimes, which is difficult to predict when is the right timing. That's
mhm,
why I also sometimes say there's a bit of luck, but of course you can build that luck with some data points and some, preparation, but it's not always easy.
Mhm.
And in terms of product hunt, the key learnings for me are for sure to prepare for the next launch. We're going to prepare even more and devote good time in engaging with the community that we've built, but also potentially partner with other companies who want to launch and maybe um, you know have a bigger voice once we launch and help them launch when they launch as well. So
Mhm.
partnerships and community engagement, I think are the key points for a
Absolutely.
successful launch.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think sort of on that point then, you did mention this a little bit, but on Product Hunt specifically, what advice would you want to give to other entrepreneurs who are currently looking to or just trying to decide whether or not this is the right time for them to launch their products on Product Hunt?
Well, that's a good question. Time in terms of, I mean, if you have something that you want to launch, I would
Mhm.
say launch it as soon as possible because the sooner you get the feedback, the sooner you can understand if you need to, you know, um, it's not nice to say, but some people say kill your baby, which
Mhm.
means well actually pivoting or
Right.
like you cannot really change your baby. But that's why probably the analogy doesn't work very well with a person.
Mhm.
But basically, what they want to say is that you need to iterate and change the direction and pivot potentially
Mhm.
if things don't match the expectation of your user base. So go
Mhm.
out, expose your company, your baby to as many people as possible. So launch as soon as possible. I think there's no exact date
Mhm.
or time. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think just one last question for me. Let's say that, you know, um, somebody straight out of undergrad and they have a fantastic sort of legal tech idea and they say, Hans Paul, I have this fantastic idea. I want to make it into a reality. What type of advice would you give to that type of sort of, nascent startup founder in terms of how to navigate the current legal tech space?
Mm. So if you're in legal tech, I mean, if you want to do something in legal tech, I think there are a couple of things you want to make sure. The first thing is it your passion? I mean, is it something you really are? Are you ready to spend days and nights for years, potentially months
Mm-hmm.
minimum, but I think it's usually years if you want to really commit yourself. And which is founder market fit. It's one of the key things before jumping to something. So founder market fit. Do I have the skills? Do I have the passion? If I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the skills, but I have the passion, I can build the skills. So make sure that you love spending time on this subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, um, well, I would say launch as soon as possible because you want to get feedback on your idea. Create a
Mm-hmm.
mockup. Create a fake website, meaning that it shows the interactions, but it doesn't really deliver value 100%. But at least you know how people think and feel it. And then, well, create a very strong team close to you. I'm fortunate enough to work with the brightest minds. Alice is one of them, and you know you are just the sum of the people that you have around you, nothing more than that. So you cannot do much by yourself, and so make sure that you create an alliance of a mastermind alliance with the great minds and great people around you that are, of course, as passionate as you
Mm-hmm.
and potentially complementary skilled, so you can tackle the different aspect of a startup journey.
Mhm. Absolutely. Where very wonderful, wise, and sage words to end on. And, Hans Paul, again, you are a wonderful founder to be able to have, for me to have the opportunity and, just the chance to work with. And shout out to the rest of the Speed Legal team for everything that they do to
Well,
make all of this a reality. So
thank you,
thank you
Alice. I
so
want
much,
to say the same
guys.
about you and the rest of the team. I mean, I'm really fortunate to work with you that
Mhm.
has like a deep understanding of the market. And actually, I have a question for you. Like, what where do you see the what do you think about the future of law? And and I mean, it's a very broad question, I know, but
Yeah.
I know that you also you've done some research in the ethical
Mhm.
aspects of AI
Mhm.
and other aspects. Maybe you want to double click for us today.
Mhm.
What are you passionate about, and where do you think you can give us some advice light?
Ooh, no, I think that's a great question. And I think I'm going to try to sidestep the most sort of, the main part of that question. So, at least my understanding of what it looks like in the legal tech space, much of the larger, big law companies, as well as sort of medium sized, law firms are still pretty reluctant about generative AI or AI systems more broadly. I think there is still a little bit of a change relative, let's say, what it was last summer versus now. But it seems like there still is quite a division between perhaps what we would might call the old guard versus the new guard in terms of the relevancy of some of the AI technologies. I think there is still a matter of just building trust with lawyers who have worked in this domain for goodness knows how many decades, and them thinking that, oh, this fancy black box that I type something into, maybe I don't quite trust the information that comes out. So maybe for me, I think what might be the most critical component going forward, especially in order to build or bridge that type of tech versus law gap, is just really try to build that type of trust and understanding, especially amongst lawyers. Know that this is not this is a technology that is meant to complement your work, that is meant to help you become more efficient. It is not meant to replace you. It is not meant to have all these sort of extra negative side effects that we sort of seen tossed around in the legal domain. So I think maybe just, a lot of more cross-cutting conversations between lawyers and tech and founders, just to try to get that sort of mutual understanding, get everybody on board. That was a very sort of, fluffy answer to a much more sort of hard-hitting question.
I really appreciate that. It makes sense, like trust
Mhm.
and making sure that there is proper integration between, you said, the old guard and the new guard,
Yeah.
and incumbents and newcomers in a sector that has been, highly regulated and, well, and very much codified knowledge since,
Mhm.
I'm not sure when, you know better than me, but maybe the Romans or even sooner.
Yep.
Like, yeah, ancient, yeah. So yeah, I think it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm very excited to be here with you talking about this today.
Absolutely. And I think it's always refreshing to talk to someone as, as passionate as you just about the work that you're doing, about its revolutionary potential. So again, I'm so excited to see what the world and the future has in store for both you and Speed Legal. And I know at least from, this conversation, I've personally learned a ton about Product Hunt and really how to navigate that space. And I hope you, our listeners, have also learned, just gained a little bit of insight from Hans Paul as well today. But thank you all so much for taking the time to talk with us and listen to us. And thank you again, Hans Paul, for your time, especially on this Monday evening. So thank you again, Hans Paul.
Thank you very much, Alice. It was great talking to you. Great conversation, and I hope to have this conversation again with you in a few months. And thank you everyone for listening and joining us today.
All right,
Thank
wonderful. All
you.
right, take care, everyone. Good night.
Take care. Bye.